Hello, welcome back to the Climbing Nomads YouTube channel. In this episode we're going to take a look at a few tips for bouldering outside. For those who are completely new to climbing or have climbed indoors and want to start bouldering outside, then we hope you'll find these tips helpful and useful. Our Bouldering Outside series has episodes which cover what to take bouldering, how to choose the ideal mat for yourself, and bouldering etiquette, so go and check out those episodes. The main aim of using your bouldering pad is to position it so that when you fall off your problem, you land on your pad. Aim to have the pad directly underneath where the climber will be, allowing for some outward movement of the climber as they will inevitably come off the rock and land a small distance from the base of the rock. Unless it's a slab, in which case have the pad tucked up to the base, as a sliding slip down the rock is more likely. Try to imagine the line of fall throughout the majority of the problem and position your pad appropriately. The outside environment doesn't always provide a perfectly flat landing, so it's up to the boulderer to level the landing as best as possible using pads, and occasionally moving small rocks around. For larger rocks sticking out of the ground, which would pose a hazard if you landed on them, try and cover these with a second pad. If that's not possible, then get your partner to spot you, so if you do fall off, they'll help to keep you from landing on the awkward rock. For traverses or problems which may lead the climber off to the side, have your partner move your pad along so that it stays underneath you as much as possible as you climb. The higher the climb, the thicker the padding you'll need. This can be done through stacking pads on top of each other to make a more cushioned landing. However, as you climb higher, the target area of your landing zone also needs to increase. As you fall off of the problem, which will be inevitable as a boulderer, look down at your pad and select a landing spot. Bend your knees ready to absorb the impact and land with soft knees while staying upright. Be wary of overbending the knees and ending up squatting during a landing, as this could lead to kneeing yourself in the mouth and teeth by accident. In the end, it's up to you to make a judgment call on whether or not you feel that the landing has been made safe enough to prevent injury to yourself should you fall off of the problem at any point. If you feel that you haven't got enough pads or enough spotters to make it safe, then move on and find a different problem. You can always come back another time with more pads and more people to help. Learn how to spot and have someone to climb with who knows how to spot. The main aim of spotting is to guide the climber onto the pad and help them land away from protruding rocks. It's also important to protect the climber's back, neck and head, so spotters need to try to keep the climber upright as they fall or prevent them stumbling backwards off of the pad once they've landed. If they're climbing a reef or inversion, make sure they land bum or legs first and not head first. Aim to guide the climber through the waist and just above the centre of gravity. This is the best point to use to deflect their momentum and energy. Stand next to any protruding rocks, ready to push the climber away from them. Be ready to move pads to keep them underneath the climber, and if they're using a heel hook or locked in foot, then spot their hips as closely as you can so you're ready to help them land safely. As a spotter, be proactive. Spot someone as you would like to be spotted, with arms out and ready, free to move around to move pads, and keep your fingers together to prevent any individual finger being bent awkwardly in the process of spotting a climber. Think of your hands as spoons to keep all of your fingers and thumbs tucked together while spotting. Remember, the spotter is not there to physically catch the climber, nor be a mat substitute, so spot at the edges of the pad rather than directly underneath the climber. There are so many areas with a wealth of great bouldering. To begin with, narrow down your search based on how far you're willing to travel and where has the best weather for your intended trip. Next, look for a decent guidebook, or you can download a guidebook app. Have a look through the different crag venues, looking for a place which has the most problems at the grade you intend to climb at. Also read about the access and general conditions. Some places are restricted at certain times of year, and some venues are best visited during particular seasons. Find out if the walk to the venue is straightforward and whether the landings are generally good or tricky. Most guidebooks will indicate whether a higher number of pads might be needed if landings are generally harsher and need more padding out. Finally, take a look at the quality of the routes. These are often marked using a starred system to indicate how good the problem is. Venues which have problems in the appropriate grade range, with lots of problems rated as good quality, with good landings and an easy walk-in, are the best venues to aim for. If it's your first time bouldering outside or first time visiting a new venue, then it's good to err on the side of caution and look to start on some climbs which are a grade or two below your usual indoor bouldering grade. Depending on the grading system you have used indoors, which may be V grades or font grades, Look for a conversion chart to help you choose appropriate problems from the guidebook. Aim to start off on problems which are a couple of grades below your usual one, to give yourself time to get used to the way of climbing outside, the type of rock, and the style of climbing. A lot of boulder problems outside will rely more on friction compared to indoor climbs, and be prepared to redefine what you consider as a foothold. When we first visit a new area, we'll spend some time walking around, looking at as many problems at our chosen grade as possible, to get an idea of which climbs look the best, looking at the landings, imagining how the problems would climb, and which lines look the most appealing and inspiring. We'll usually settle on a few to try and then start at the furthest end of the venue and work our way back towards the entrance or path nearest the car park. This helps to save us wandering around too much with the compass and pads, and has saved us wearing away skin on mediocre problems when there was a stellar line just around the corner. Once you've selected your problem, then comes the challenge of actually climbing it. Outdoor problems don't have coloured holds to indicate where they start or finish, so check the guidebook for a description of where the problem actually goes. Usually the problem will be highlighted with a line in the guidebook to show you where to climb. It will also tell you whether it's a sit start, or it will specify the starting handholds. There may be other information too, such as whether or not certain larger holds may be in for your problem, or whether to avoid certain features. Generally speaking, the intended climb will be within one arm span either side of the drawn line, aiming to keep your body as close to the line as possible. Before starting, take a good look at the problem and try to identify the possible handholds and foot placements. Trying to visualise the climb and remembering where the best holds are will help when it comes to actually climbing the problem. As indoor routes are coloured, it's easier to identify the next hold mid-route, but trickier when climbing real rock where all the handholds are the same colour. Indoor climbing routes usually have the unwritten rule that the problem finishes with two hands on the last hold. The majority of boulder problems will finish on top of the boulder, unless it's on a face or craglet, and may finish at a certain point and require you to jump down. To gain the full tick of a top-out boulder will require you to do just that, to top out. To do this, aim to latch the top, select a high foothold and stand up and pull yourself over the top. Aim to get a knee or even better a foot onto the top of the boulder. In some places, the beached whale technique is often seen and used, where the climber manages to get the majority of their torso onto the top, and a small grovelling shuffle follows to get the rest of the body over the top. Remember that palming down onto the top of the boulder will help immensely when it comes to refining your topping out technique. Switching your hand around so that your fingers point towards your spotter and pads, and your palm is doing the main work of pushing you upwards. It's a technique rarely used for indoor routes, so it may take a bit of practice to start with. One which has often caught me out is the way off the boulder. Before setting off up your problem, identify the easiest way up and subsequently down the boulder. Down climbing feels very different and again might take a bit of practice to get used to. It's best to face the rock, hold onto the rock near the edge and lower your feet down to the next foothold. Aim to keep your arms from becoming too stretched out and straight, as bent arms will enable you to lower yourself down. Have your spotter help to guide you down if needed, or even move the pad around so it's underneath the descent. These are a few tips for bouldering outside for the first time. I hope you find them useful and helpful. Let us know your top tips for bouldering outside and leave them in the comments. Remember to check out the rest of our Bouldering Outside series, which includes the right kit to take with you, how to choose the best bouldering pad, and outdoor etiquette. Have fun climbing and stay safe!